Welcome back, American Family Radio Network, Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. 866-300-9298, 866-300-9298. If you've got a financial question, I was saying just before the break, I'm getting clobbered, of course, with email. I continue to do that. It has slowed down a little bit, but nevertheless, folks, now's your time. If you've got a financial question for me, pick the phone up. Give me a call, 866-300-9298. Love to answer it. Love to have that question being shared with so many other people that probably have the same question. So give us a call. That's the best way to get it answered. If you've emailed me, if you're wondering why I haven't answered, give a call. I'm trying to get to. There have been some people out there that have gotten answers. I'm trying to go back. I'm going through. I go through them every chance I get, but it's just a little. There's thousands. So as you can imagine, just the length of time it takes me to read thousands of them, let alone answer. So just keep that in mind, 866-300-9298. You know, you heard me on the rants way back when the president decided to arbitrarily line item by line item, decide which part of the law he was going to enforce. Now, all of my rants were based on the fact that the weasel Republicans were not standing up and saying anything about it, and it was driving me crazy. Now, they were benefiting from some of it, so of course they weren't going to say anything. But how they could sit back and watch as the president was just blatantly doing whatever he wanted, flying in the face of the Constitution of the United States and changing the law. Well, it took a little while, but we've had a number of people lately, and there has actually been some testimony. And so there was some testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, and there was a law professor by the name of Jonathan Turley. He's also a commentator. He does a lot of legal analysis work for some of the networks and writes an awful lot in reference to that. He is a law professor at George Washington University Law. And I've got a statement by him in reference to this issue, and then a couple others. Listen to this.
The center of gravity is shifting, and that makes it unstable. And within that system, you have the rise of an Uber presidency. There could be no greater danger for individual liberty. And I really think that the framers would be horrified by that shift, because everything they dedicated themselves to was creating this orbital balance, and we've lost it.
As I've said before, I think the ultimate check is elections, but I don't think you should be hesitant to speak the word in this room. A check on executive lawlessness is impeachment.
If the people come to believe that the government is no longer constrained by the laws, then they will conclude that neither are they. That is why this is a very, very dangerous sort of thing for the president to do, to wantonly ignore the laws, to try to impose obligations on people that the legislature did not approve.
Well, there's no doubt it's dangerous for the president. What's even more dangerous is that we've got a whole bunch of people in the Senate and in the House of Representatives that don't want to call him to account on that. So when we think about, so there's an ultimate, I guess you could say the ultimate check and balance is elections. That's fine. And I agree with that. I've said that about term limits. The term limit is vote them out. Every 2 years we get to vote for the House of Representatives. So, certainly they should all, Republicans particularly, ought to be voted out. Because none of them were willing to stand up against this. None of them were willing to utter the word impeachment as the president blatantly breaks the laws. Bob Goodlatte says he's a Republican from Virginia in reference to this as well. He said this last night on the Kelly File, I believe. Listen to this.
Well, I think it's very clear that the public's attention to this problem is growing, and it's responsible for individuals like Professor Turley, who actually supports Obamacare, supports some of these other policies, but says the president does not have the authority to rewrite that law. And even when the Congress says, well, we should extend the employer mandate, he ignores that and threatens to veto it, instead simply does it himself. It's a serious problem. People are waking up to it, and that's a good thing.
Stephen King, representative from Iowa. Listen to this.
For example, on immigration law, we call it the Morton Memos. The president has ordered ICE not to enforce clear immigration law and then made up work permits out of thin air. There are about 5 different violations of constitutional violations there. Under Obamacare, at some discussion today, he extended the employer mandate for a year, even though the law says shall commence in each month after December of 2013. He extended the individual mandate, stretched that out, and now the small package plans. He's got at least 3 times that he's violated the Constitution with Obamacare. He declared the Senate to not be in session to make his recess appointments when the Senate was actually in pro forma sessions, and the Constitution says that the Senate shall make its own rules. That's just some of the violations that we have. It is a long list from this president, an uber president with no respect or little respect for the Constitution itself.
Let me just say something, folks. You need to do this right now. I did it this morning. I want everybody to write, email, phone your state representatives, those in the House of Representatives and your state senator. You need to write them and say, have the guts. The president, listen, write it down if you need to. The President of the United States of America is not above the law in any circumstances. And he takes an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And though you, Mr. Senator, Mr. Representative, Mr. Congressman, though you may find these law-breaking proceedings comfortable for yourself and convenient for yourself, you have an obligation to me, the person you work for, to begin impeachment process for the abuse of power and the breaking of the law of this president. You better call and write those letters, because now it's starting to come to the public. Why? Why is it now? Why wasn't it when it was happening? Why was it that every Republican, just about every Republican, and Democrats turned their back on this and didn't even care, didn't even bring it up? They didn't, every chance they had to get in front of a camera. Did they bring this up? No. They were talking about Obamacare. They were talking about increasing the deficit or whatever the situation was or whatever the talking points for the day was. But nobody's talking about the blatant abuse of power that we've been witnessing for the last 3 or 4 years in particular, that this president has been doing. If this were a Republican president, he would be gone by now. Our president would be whoever the former vice president was. That's what would happen if this were a Republican president. So let's do our part and make sure that we call it to the attention, because I'm tired of it. I'm even more tired, more angry, more frustrated over the fact that I've been bringing this up since the very first time it happened. And I'm sick and tired of, I don't want to be ahead of that curve. I don't want to be ahead of it. I don't want to, somebody said that I met with yesterday, somebody said to me, well, you must have inside sources. You know so many people. It's amazing how I don't know anybody. I mean, I have certain sources, but it's not based on sources. It's based on what I just heard. It's based on the part that the news media did report. I'm not even reading between the lines. It's pathetic. We better do something about it. 866-392-98, 866-392. You know, and I got another thing. I'm not going to play this now. We'll probably get to it this second hour, top of the second hour. But let me tell you something, folks. If you don't think your taxes are going to be going up, you're living in some kind of fantasy world. Because make no mistake about it, there is no way on God's green earth that America can afford Obamacare. Do you understand that? Even the architects of Obamacare understand that there had to be built into the plan certain revenue streams, knowing that we can't afford it. And I said on a program earlier this morning that I was being interviewed on, I said, look, it doesn't matter. They were talking about the November 2014 elections. I said the 2014 elections are probably irrelevant at this point, because the fact of the matter is, in 2016 November elections, everybody within the sound of my voice in the 41 states that I'm on and hundreds of thousands of people listening, every single one will know somebody that is denied important, maybe life-threatening health care because of Obamacare. Everybody's going to know somebody. And the Democrats are not going to be able to run and hide from it. They're not. But that's not the problem. So if you're a Republican, you're saying, well, that's good, then the Republicans are in. Okay, if you think that's good, that's fine. That's not the issue. The issue is going to be the state of our health care here in America. The state of an entitlement program that we can't throw enough money at it to make it better. The state of socialized medicine in America, that's going to be the issue. And we're doing nothing about it. We're just going to wait until it happens, and we're going to react to it like we do everything, because we don't have a legislative body that has any guts, that has any leadership, and that has the ability to see the unintended consequence of eating a bad lunch today, let alone looking out into the future for a couple years. And I don't say they don't have the willingness to. Forget the willingness. They don't have that either. That's not the issue. It's an issue of competency. They're not competent. That's harsh. It's harsh. And nobody else would dare say it, I suppose. But I'm saying it. They don't have the competency. Do you understand? We've got people leading the country that aren't even competent enough to understand the unintended consequence of what they are doing. That's who's leading this country. So 2016, that's the issue is going to be, what do we do with this socialized medicine that we've embraced? Every legislator has embraced, not every. There's 50, 60 that haven't. I know. So don't say, well, you know, Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, and I know that. I know this. But there's 535 of them. 50, 60 is good. But think about this. And we have got to understand that and make some change. Because when the mortality rate goes up, and it will, not maybe, it will go up, on breast cancer in this country. The country that has the best survival rate of breast cancer than any other country will go up, because part of that great survival rate was early detection. But that was because you were allowed at age 40 to get a mammogram and have it paid for by your insurance company. No more. Now it's 50, age 50. And the mortality rate was high because if you were 76 and you were in good health and you were still had many years ahead of you, you were able to get a mammogram on a regular basis and be checked. Not anymore. Age 75, it's not going to be paid for. You can do it, but you got to pay for it on your own. Just that alone. That's just one tiny little thing. All that to say, I started the conversation by talking about taxes. I'm going to talk about that. We're going to see taxes. They are going to tax everything that moves, folks, because, listen, remember, We do not, will not, cannot have the tax revenue that is necessary under the same economic structure that we have today, under the same lack of growth that we have today, under the same inability or desire, I should say, the lack of desire for corporate America to expand, grow, and hire people, for the same lack of consumer confidence to buy products that are necessary. We don't have that here in America. We may not have that. We may be in a time of stagnation for a long time. So when you're in a time of stagnation, you can't generate revenues to the government, yet we haven't changed our spending a lick. Oh, we had some changes this year as a result of sequester. The question is, are we going to have a sequester next year? We better, because it seems to be the only thing that has slowed the spending down a little bit. But all of the programs that nobody's willing to fight for are going to have major consequence on the economy and our spending, and we don't have the revenues, and the only way they're going to get the revenues is on the back of you and I. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. 866-300-9298. Let's start going to calls. Let me get to the first call right now. Let me go to Lynn from Oregon. Hey, Lynn.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Good. Quick question. A couple of stocks that have been on your list. One is CNI, Canadian National.
Yes.
And that is up about, nearly 20%. I believe it did a split.
Yeah, Canadian National has been a great company. I mean, I had them, as you mentioned, on my buy list several times. And when, I'm going to have to put you on hold. I didn't realize we were that close to the break, Lynn. I'm going to put you on hold because you said a couple stocks. That's only one. So I don't want to just comment on that after the break. So let me put you on hold. We're going to go to break. When we get back, we'll get those other stocks, and I'll talk about Canadian National. You're listening to Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. 866-300-9298. We'll be right back.